What's going on, everyone? It's Purple Haze here with another video, and this time we're talking about the challenges that Sony PlayStation is going to have in implementing their strategy. Now, if you haven't seen my last video, I'll put it in the description where I talk about Sony PlayStation strategy. And as a refresher, I said that Sony was going to probably pivot back to the strategy they had back during their glory days back in the PS2 era. And that's going to look like a lot of things that are exclusive to PlayStation. Now, I'm not saying everything will be exclusive to PlayStation, but I do think we're going to see more games that are exclusive to them or timed exclusive to them. I think we're going to see some accessories that are going to really enable the PlayStation ecosystem to really thrive within a hardware type of situation. But when we think about their challenges, there are three that I've identified. I'm not saying these are all, and I'm also not saying that Sony's not actually have identified mitigating factors for these. What I am saying that these are three challenges to that strategy. And the first one is something I've mentioned quite a bit on my live streams, Shades of Purple, and that's that Sony has a cost problem. A lot of people would actually say Sony doesn't sell enough games, and though that might be right, I can definitely say if Sony does not get their cost situation under control, it really doesn't matter how many games they sell because they just will be always turning a negative profit because they do not have costs under control. And this isn't really just Sony. Many game companies, as well as multimedia movie companies, are facing the same situation. Sony's even said themselves that their business model is not sustainable with them charging or them spending so much money on to produce a game. So I definitely think Sony for sure has a cost problem, and that will be a challenge going forward. The next thing that I want to highlight kind of relates to it, but kind of doesn't. And that's that the gaming landscape, particularly the competitive landscaping within gaming, is different than probably at any other time. And I don't necessarily mean from other console makers, but just really if we think about the form factor of gaming, it's just so many different alternatives to playing on a console. We have PC back 2 decades ago. Yes, there was a PC gaming market, but PC was really kind of a different segment. There was a little bit of overlap, but nowhere close to as much overlap as there is today. On top of that, we have other things such as a handheld market. Yes, I understand PlayStation has a handheld in the PS Portal as well as looking at producing another handheld, but there's no doubt about it that Switch as well as the Steam Deck and others have really brought another form of gaming that PlayStation right now does not necessarily have a competitor to that. Probably the biggest thing, though, in my opinion, is just games themselves. Gamers right now are spending more time on older titles. And back when Sony came out, or Sony PlayStation 2 to the PlayStation 3 era, from PlayStation 1 to the PlayStation 2 era, well, we could say where there were these giant leaps in technology. And so what you had back then where gamers would go from generation to generation and play newer games. We're not seeing that now. You have gamers who are totally okay with playing games in the PS4 era. And so much so that majority of gamers actually play games 5 years or older. And that's a really big threat to the PlayStation model of yesteryear. In addition to that, we also have something called live service games. I know there's a lot of news about live service games right now, but still, it's no mistaking that live service games actually do take gamers' attention away, as well as their money away from potentially spending within the PlayStation ecosystem. It's no wonder that PlayStation tried to create their own live service games. They've had a success there, but the majority of them have not been a success. So going forward, just the competitive landscape is different, and that will pose a challenge to the way PlayStation did business in the past, particularly their single player game sells a lot of copies, wash, rinse, and repeat, different IP, different art style, newer technology. That no longer exists. So, the third thing, this is the thing I think is the biggest threat, biggest challenge to Sony PlayStation's strategy. And that's something termed the innovator's dilemma. Now, you can go read a book called The Innovator's Dilemma, and it'll tell you all about it. But in short, the innovator's dilemma is when innovative companies create a technology or product and they really focus on that technology and product in the customer base, really addressing the customer base's needs as it pertains to that technology or product. Unfortunately, what happens is that the innovative company then becomes less innovative because they're no longer focusing on emerging threats and or technologies and are susceptible to another company coming in with a different product and taking market share away. We actually have seen this with Sony, particularly, not necessarily the PlayStation, but definitely with Sony. When we talk about the phone market, Sony had an amazing partnership with Ericsson. However, they weren't focused on the smartphone market, and then BlackBerry and then iPhone both took considerable market share away. We've seen this with the boombox. We've seen this in Sony with the box TV. We've seen this happen to Sony before in different parts of their product ecosystem. And so, given that, it has to be said that Sony focusing on the PlayStation and the PlayStation ecosystem potentially will miss out on an emerging technology. Now, I understand a lot of people would say, but Purple, they've been focusing with these investments here and other investments over here. However, what I would contest is that those investments have not worked out probably as much as Sony would like. We've seen the layoffs in VR, we've seen the pullback in live service. And so, with both of those not really working out that well, it probably means that Sony is going to be less likely to invest in something innovative in the future, potentially missing something as the game industry evolves. So that's the three challenges I find to Sony strategy going forward. I'll be making a different video where I talk about some of the strengths of Sony PlayStation and how they can implement those strengths. But for now, I just wanted to talk about challenges. But enough of what I think. What do you think? Do you think I'm missing something? Do you agree with me? Do you just like PlayStation? You want me to tell me why you like PlayStation, or maybe you just hate PlayStation and you just want to tell me why you hate it? Please put it down in the comments. I usually respond in the if you put something in the first 2 days. But for everyone else, you know what I say. I don't care where you game, how you game, why you game, what you game on, how long you've been gaming. As long as you're gaming, you're good with me. And as always, this is Purple Haze, and the proof is in the playing. All right, take care, y'all. Later. Bye.